ambassadors, the heads of UN agencies represented here, our heads of the government agencies and departments, the MTN Group, our anchor sponsors and partners, and all the sponsors who are here, the captains of industry, and our delegates from South Africa and Uganda, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this closing ceremony of the Uganda-South Africa Trade and Investment Summit. Your Excellency, before I invite the Honorable Mulemba, who is in charge of today's program, I just had been asked to manage one or two things, especially with the protocol. I want in a very special way to introduce, especially to the South African delegation that is here, the Honorable Ministers who are here with us. And Your Excellency, I will be a bit selfish since I am from Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, and start with my very own minister, the Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Bariomusi. Please stand for recognition. I also want to recognize the Honorable Francis Mwebesa, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Representing the Minister of Finance is the Minister of State for Investment, the Honorable Evelyn Anite. The Ministry of Trade, Your Excellency, is well represented here. We have the Minister of State for Trade, the Honorable Ntabazi. Please stand for recognition. And the Minister of State for Industry and the Minister of Trade, the Honorable David Bahati. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, our host ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable John Mulemba. Your Excellency, the Honorable Mulemba will introduce the South African delegation. But Your Excellency, just before I invite him, I have been requested by our very own PASID, the Presidential Advisory Committee on Export and Industrial Development, Your Excellency, to highlight some of the successes of this summit. And you will, in the declaration, get the details. But before that, I really wanted to appreciate Your Excellency, in the last 2 days, this conversation that has been led by MTN Group, with the support, of course, of the High Commission, South African High Commission to Uganda and the Uganda High Commission to South Africa, has the following success stories from yesterday. And I wanted to recognize these companies, Your Excellency, that have expressed interest in the different sectors, because this detail will not be in the declaration. Your Excellency, I will start with Tiger Brands. Now, Tiger Brands, Your Excellency, has committed to start exporting nuts, tomatoes, and beans from Uganda into South Africa. Can we give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Your Excellency, they will be working with the cooperatives here in Uganda on that front. Do we have Tiger Brands in the room? Can you stand for recognition, Tiger Brands? Yes, please stand. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, we have SADC Grain Prime, and these have been talking to the Uganda Grain Council. Your Excellency, the conversation on maize is critical, and they say they have begun talking, and they should be coming back to us with success stories. Do we have the SADC representative in the room? Can you stand for recognition? SADC? Yes, they're at the back. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Your Excellency, we have Red Core Coruscell. This is a packaging company from South Africa. Your Excellency, they will be coming to support packaging for export. Can you stand for recognition, Red Core? Please stand. And I want to now quickly move into the others. Autistic Trading Enterprise. This is a food processing agency. The Genius Leather Collections, who will be looking at crafts and leather fashions. We have Brand South Africa, known to everyone, but they are looking for partnerships with Brand Uganda, Uganda Connect, to create a Brand Africa initiative. Your Excellency, this particular initiative will be driven by Arif Monsi. Arif, if you could stand for recognition. He is producing electric transformers in South Africa, and he's already talking to our team here to start the Uganda Connect Hub in South Africa. Can we give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Your Excellency, we have road saver, road construction and road assistance services, and blend tunnels, who will be looking at fruit pulp and juice, and finally digital pupil production, the partnerships in media and live streaming, an area of interest for Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. With that, Your Excellency, I want to take the pleasure of inviting the Honorable John Mulimba, who will be leading us into today's program. Can we give the Honorable Minister a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen?
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Uganda, our visiting ministers from the Republic of South Africa, ministers from the Republic of Uganda, Excellencies Ambassador, particularly the Ambassador of South Africa to Uganda, and that of Uganda to South Africa, the investors, CEOs leading your different investment groups, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, I would like to report to you that arising out of your directive and that of your host then in the first round of the Uganda-South Africa summit, which took place in South Africa, you directed that we have the return leg of the Trade and Investment Summit here in Kampala, and that is the reason why we are gathered here, Your Excellency. The summit began the other day with reviewing the matrix, escalated to us as ministers from the technical people. Yesterday, we had plenary, and today we are crowning it all, Your Excellency. Permit me to introduce to you our visiting delegation from the Republic of South Africa, led by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Land Development, who is the leader of the delegation from the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Minister, Ms. Thoko Didiza. Permit me, Your Excellency, introduce to you the Minister for Communication and Digital Technologies, the Honorable Minister Mondli Gugumbele. Your Excellency, permit me to introduce to you the Deputy Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Mr. Fish Mahalela. Permit me to introduce to you the Deputy Minister for Trade, Industry and Competitions, the Honorable Nomalungelo Gina. Permit me, Your Excellency, to introduce to you Her Excellency, the Ambassador of South Africa to Uganda, Ms. Zingwana. In the same vein, permit me to introduce to you the High Commission of Uganda to South Africa, our own. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, this summit has been enabled by a number of companies. It has been sponsored by a number of companies, led by the MTN group of companies, represented here by the group chairperson, Jonas Mukbesi, the CEO, and the President, Ralph Mupita. Kindly stand up for your recognition. Your Excellency, the other group is the ABSA group, headed by the CEO, Mr. Mumba Kalifungwa. We also had Stanbic Bank, which is represented here by Mr. Andrew Mushanda. Sanlam Group, headed by CEO Ms. Ruth Namuli. Nile Breweries, headed by the CEO Adu Rando. Malt Choice, headed by CEO Hassan Saleh. And DFCU Group, headed by Charles Mudiwa. Your Excellency, would like to give you the outcome of the summit first leg, which happened in the Republic of South Africa. And in order to do that, permit me to invite the Minister of Finance, being represented here by the Honorable Anite, to come and give a quick recap of the outcomes of the summit first leg, which came out as a result of your directive and the directive of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Ramaphosa. Kindly welcome.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the ministers present from Uganda, the Minister of Trade and Cooperatives, Honorable Mwebesa, the Minister of ICT, and the state ministers present, the head of UN Women, the ministers from South Africa, the Ambassador of South Africa, and the Ugandan ambassador to South Africa, the chairman, group CEO, and all the top leadership of MTN Global and MTN National, as in Uganda, all the distinguished investors, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, allow me first of all start by commending you for creating an conducive environment for Ugandans to live in, but also, most importantly, for business to thrive in our country. Your Excellency, the first accountability of the good job that you've done for peace and stability in our country is the evidence that as we speak, MTN has got over 18 million subscribers, and thanks to the President's creation of peace and stability. Your Excellency, right from the time you took over power in 1996, you stated your agenda for the country very clearly. And you did mention that it is not just a mere change of guards, that it will be a fundamental change. Mr. President, we've been indeed witnessing fundamental change in different sectors of our economy. And Mr. President, you did mention under your 10-point program, point number 5, that you will build for this beautiful country, Uganda, an integrated and self-sustaining economy. And you've been walking the talk by directing us, your believers and your ministers, that we should focus in promoting the 4 sectors of our economy that can bring money in our economy, namely commercial agriculture, services, manufacturing, and ICT. Your Excellency, you did lead a delegation to South Africa, and when you led the delegation, this agenda for strengthening the relationship between Uganda and South Africa started 2 years. Most prominently is around the COVID time and post-COVID when you led us to South Africa. That had come to Uganda, that they must not only focus on communication and money, access to credit, which was being done by ABSA, Stanbic Bank, and MTN. You made a very vivid call to MTN to have investment conference and trade conference in Uganda. And Your Excellency, today MTN is walking the talk. And I want to inform you, Mr. President, and Ugandans, that today MTN has brought on board 40 companies from South Africa. Your Excellency, I know that you're a man who walks the talk and you want evidence-based studies. I'd like to ask all the companies from South Africa, all the 40 companies, to stand up for recognition and wave to the President. All the companies from South Africa, the 40 of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. President, you did mention that we should focus on value addition. PASED, Ministry of Trade and Cooperatives, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Uganda Investment Authority and Ministry of Finance were able to do a matchmaking and resolving on how we are going to work together with these 40 companies. Our major focus was on value addition. We were able to sign deals on fertilizer, value addition on fertilizer, using our phosphate, export of coffee. Your Excellency, the good news from South Africa was that our Ugandan coffee exporter and the company that does value addition, Nelson Tugume, I just want to ask him to stand up as I make this point. Nelson Tugume is there, Your Excellency. You've gone ahead and supported Nelson Tugume and other 14 consortium members, and now they've gotten opportunity to export coffee in the market of South Africa. Your Excellency, we have gotten deals of signing beef, of exporting our beef to South Africa, fruits and vegetables. And at this point, Mr. President, allow me to thank you for going through the exhibition because you're able to understand what we're doing here more. Let us clap for our President, because he took his time to go through that. Your Excellency, there were some challenges, and I want to inform you that we did not, around taxes and how we can break through to strengthen the economic relationship between Uganda and South Africa. We've been able to have these discussions from yesterday, and we'll continue with these discussions. Indeed, we will resolve these challenges because you've given us able guidance, and we will give you the report on how we have arrived on the solutions. Your Excellency, within my time, I have said what MTN Global has done. Allow me, with your permission, invite the chairman of MTN and the president of MTN and the vice president and the CEO, Sylvia, your Kenyan daughter, to come here, and the global CEO makes the remark on behalf of MTN in this wonderful occasion. I thank you, Mr. President.
Your Excellency, the President of Uganda, Her Excellencies, the High Commissioner of the Republic of South Africa, the Ambassador of Uganda to South Africa, Ministers and Deputy Ministers of State present here, both from Uganda and South Africa, Director Generals, Commissioners, and CEOs of our regulatory bodies, MTN Uganda Board, colleagues from the private sector, both from South Africa and in Uganda, ladies and gentlemen. Under normal circumstances, Honorable President would have given you a very long speech. Today, I think, we will be very short and probably to the point. We would want to first acknowledge that in our last encounter with Your Excellency, you raised a couple of issues with MTN Group. The first was that MTN has a bigger role to play than just playing in the space of telecommunication and financial inclusion, and therefore we need to find ways of exercising and playing a role broader and bigger than that. The second was that we need to look specifically on promoting manufacturing activities in Uganda, but also ensure that we help you attract South African companies to invest in Uganda. And thirdly, we agreed that a summit, an investment and trade summit, will be held in Uganda that will combine South Africa and Uganda in a conversation, but also ensure that we bring private sector in full to participate and exchange views in such a platform. Today, we're closing that summit. And as ministers who stood here before me outlined, a lot of success was made in all the areas that we committed ourselves to. But more importantly, we can also report that we have actually helped in the facilitation of manufacturing of cell phones in Uganda. As you were touring the exhibition, I'm sure you recognize. But we've also gone further than that to say that in the near future, we will be procuring 1 million handsets from that factory to ensure that it is viable and it survives. So we can say without any fear of contradiction that this conference has been very successful. But in going through the deliberation in the conference, it was very clear that it was not just about deals. It was also about looking at the investment environment in Uganda, but also in the continent. There are a couple of points that I think came through as we interact amongst ourselves as business, but also as we interact with counterparts in government. The first is, I think there is great appreciation of the institutional quality of Ugandan institutions by both MTN and many of the private sector players who are here. I think the big message we are passing is that we should continue to strengthen the quality of institutions in Uganda, but also in other parts of the continent. In doing that, we must also strive to reduce the cost of doing business in the continent, and in particular in Uganda. We have experience as MTN and many of the private sector players here, and you have experienced regulators who understand the investment environment. I think through that collaboration, we should continue to work in strengthening the investment environment. Part of that work should include strengthening contract enforcement, unambiguous policies, a culture of efficiency and anti-corruption, and access to finance are some of what we think are important factors in ensuring that we have a viable investment climate. The second area, President, that I thought came through very strongly is the need to strengthen intra-regional and continental trade. Again here, Honorable President, this in part is the function of tariffs, but mainly it is the function of also cost of doing business across borders. That is why we welcome the commitment to the African Continental Field Trade Area. There are studies that show that the estimated cost of intra-regional trade in East Asia is 50% less than intra-regional trade in the continent. And that, we think, is something that all of us, corporates as well as governments in the continent, should work about. We did a couple of studies. One of them showed that if you have a container moving from Durban Port in South Africa 5,000 kilometers to Lesotho and Maseru in Lesotho, that will cost 50% more than moving a container from Mumbai to Durban. And that is something that we think that we'll continue to have to deal with. The third area is finding ways of dealing with urbanization. It is very clear that urbanization is happening at a pace that is very fast in the continent. And we need to look at how do we finance, support infrastructure to actually capture the potential that is carried by urbanization. The fourth point is infrastructure. And my last point is about finding means of looking at how do we finance infrastructure and development in the continent. There has been a very useful discussion during this conference about financing models for infrastructure that range from how do you build partnership between the private sector and governments in financing infrastructure. I think, Mr. President, that conversation should continue. The digital agenda remains central to our work, and we'll continue with what we're doing in this area. Can I end off by thanking all the ministers present here today, particularly the ministers from South Africa, for having really kind of gone out of their way to ensure that they make this a success. I must also thank our ambassadors, both the Ugandan ambassador to South Africa, as well as the South African ambassador to Uganda. Sisi, you have done very well for our country, and the contribution that you have made to make this a success is noticed and acknowledged. I must also end by thanking my colleagues in the private sector for actually having stood side by side with us and put money into the process to ensure that this event is successful. Lastly, as I am about to stand up to sit down, I thank the ministers from Uganda for always having their doors open for MTN. I must say that there's been difficult conversation, Your Excellency, as you would know, between MTN and Uganda, and there will continue to be difficult conversations between us on a range of issues. What we appreciate is that we have always had your door open to us, and you have been willing to engage. And all the ministers that we deal with have been very positive in engaging us and supporting MTN. We really salute you for that. I thank you.
Thank you very, very much, MTN. Mr. President, as I conclude my speech for today, I just want to commend you for, now this time as the chairman of the National Resistance Movement. Out of the 4 points of the principles of NRM, there are 2 principles that I want to single out today that you have ably led us as NRM members to ensure that we support our country and our nation. And these 2 principles that I want to refer to is principle of Pan-Africanism. Your Excellency, I want to thank you for being a true Pan-Africanist and connecting Uganda to the rest of Africa by not only building relationships, which are diplomatic relations, but taking Uganda to the market of 1.4 billion people. If you're Ugandan, please clap. Your Excellency, my final point is on nationalism. Your Excellency, this principle, as the chairman of the National Resistance Movement that I'm addressing today, I want to thank you for giving support to the private sector. PSFU, as the lead private sector mobilizer and organizer, has brought in this room 50 Ugandan companies. I want to ask Private Sector Foundation and all the private sector companies from Uganda to stand up and wave to the President. So, Your Excellency, you have a full composition, and I know that you're an excellent speaker, and you will truly deliver the message of wealth creation and prosperity of not only Uganda, but Africa. I thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Honorable Anite, and the MTN group for your kind remarks. Your Excellency, we shall request you to oversee the signing of 2 memorandum of understanding, one between Uganda Industrial Research Institute and Hexagon Electrical Limited, which has set up an engineering hub to manufacture electricity transformers in Uganda. The next one will be memorandum of understanding between Investment South Africa and Uganda Investment Authority in promotion and facilitation of investment between the Republic of Uganda and the Republic of South Africa. We request you, sir, that be done after your address. Now permit me, sir, to proceed and present a communique, which is the South African-Uganda Trade Investment Summit Declaration, also called the Kampala Declaration. It was recalled that during the state visit of His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to South Africa and the first session of Uganda-South-Africa Trade and Investment Summit in February 2023, the Excellencies President Ramaphosa and President Yoweri Museveni approved the convening and hosting of the second session of the Uganda-South-Africa Trade and Investment Summit in Kampala before the end of 2023. Secondly, at the invitation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uganda, in conjunction with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation of the Republic of South Africa, the Uganda-South Africa Trade and Investment Summit was convened and held on the 5th to 6th September 2023 in Kampala, Uganda. Third, the summit was attended by the Honorable Thoko Didiza, Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Honorable Mondli Gungumbele, Minister of Communication and Digital Technologies, Honorable Nomalungelo Gina, Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition from Republic of South Africa, Honorable Chris Variomusi, Minister of ICT of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Francis Mwevesa, Minister of Trade and Industry and Cooperatives, myself, Minister of State Foreign Affairs, in charge of Regional Affairs, the Honorable Bright Ramirama, Minister of State for Animal Industry and Fisheries, the Honorable Keris Peter, the Honorable Evelyn Anite, in charge of investment from finance, Mr. Odrek Rwabogo, Chairman of PASAID, Mr. Humphrey Zay, Chairman Private Sector Foundation from the Republic of Uganda. Fourth, the summit was also attended by the High Commissioners of Uganda and South Africa, senior government officials, captains of industries and private sector from both countries. Number 5, the ministers and captains of industries recalled and reviewed recommendations of the first South Africa Trade and Investment Summit in South Africa in February 2023 and noted with satisfaction the commitment and enthusiasm of the two countries in addressing obstacles and challenges of doing business in their respective countries. Number 6, they expressed gratitude towards strong support from His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa and His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni for fostering strong bonds of bilateral relations, encourage government officials to take practical steps to ensure easy facilitation of trade and investment in both countries to spur growth and economic development. 7, the ministers reiterated the commitment of their respective countries in resolving all challenges to business in Uganda and South Africa, including 1, strengthening corporate relations between private sector and governments in order to seamlessly work together to enhance business processes. 2, strengthening trade and business linkages for favorable balance of trade between two countries. 3, removal of all trade barriers and enhancement of free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. 4, operationalizing the South African-Uganda Committee of Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Trade to handle the challenges of respective business communities. This is to create a harmonious business environment for two private sectors to thrive. Number 5, revenue authorities of two countries to hold regular meetings with the private sector to address challenges. Number 6, expediting processes of reciprocal recognition of standards and compliances for goods and services. This will operationalize the Joint Technical Committee and Joint Technical Working Groups agreed on during the previous second session of the JCC held in Kampala, Uganda 2022. Number 7, directed the senior government officials to operationalize joint technical committees to implement all signed MOUs and decisions of Uganda-South Africa Joint Commission of Cooperation, including free movement of goods, services, capital, people, and harmonization of mutual recognition of standards. Number 8, the ministers welcomed the outcome of meeting of the two chiefs of immigration of Uganda and South Africa that took place in Kampala from 31st August to 4th September 2023 and developed a roadmap on addressing immigration-related matters. 8, the South African delegation commended the Republic of Uganda for convening the second edition of the South Africa Trade and Investment Summit and expressed gratitude for the warm reception and hospitality accorded to them. Number 9, the ministers welcomed the signing of two MOU between URI and Hexagon Electrical Limited for setting up an engineering hub to manufacture electricity transformers, and the second one, MOU between Invest South Africa and Uganda Investment Authority in promotion and facilitation of investment between the Republic of Uganda and the Republic of South Africa. Number 10, Uganda appreciated the role the South African companies are playing in socio-economic development of the country. Number 11, commitments. The summit welcomed the following commitments. 1, investment in production of transformers in Uganda. Second, MOU for the export of 25 tons of beef per month from Uganda to South Africa. 3, export of roasted coffee from Uganda to South Africa, which will more than double our current exports of $1.2 million. Number 4, MTN partnership with an assembling plant for cell phones in Uganda. Number 5, expression of interest from South African company to invest in manufacturing of ammonium fertilizers using green energy, of which Uganda has plenty. Number 6, increase by 4-fold the tourist arrivals, including weekly charters from South Africa to Uganda. Uganda Airlines has agreed to increase the weekly frequency and capacity of South Africa and maintain a rate of $1 per kilo of fruits, vegetables, flowers, and coffee. Training support for the Hospitality Institute in Jinja. Number 12, the 2 delegations applauded the sponsors of the summit, including MTN, Absa Bank, Stanbic Bank, Nile Breweries, DFCU Bank, PSFU, Sanlam, DSTV, PASAID, UIA, and other stakeholders for their role in making the second edition of Uganda-South Africa Business and Investment Summit possible, and further noted that this kind of partnership between government and private sector is critical in growing business between 2 sisterly countries. Your Excellency the President, that marks the end of the Kampala Declaration. With those having said that, Your Excellency, sir, it's now my singular honor and privilege to invite you to come and address the summit. Your Excellency, sir.
Sit down, please. The Honorable Ministers and Members of Parliament, the ambassadors, and the business people. I have a bit of cold, but I checked. If there's no corona, and when I get near you, I put on a mask so you will not get my cold. By 1963, we had started noticing the 2 lines in Africa. I have been lucky to watch all of this and to participate. Initially, the issues were not very clear. However, by 1965, the 2 lines of thinking in Africa had become clear. One line was the neo-colonial thinking, pushed or permitted, or I don't know what words to use, by groups which say they care about Africa, but actually they don't. And that line was the maintenance, not maintenance, maintenance of what we are calling in the 1960s enclave economies. Enclave economies, which means enclave is another English word for island, an island or an intrusion of some sort. Now, these enclave economies were characterized by a small island of modernity surrounded by a sea of backwardness. The word we were using to describe them in the 1960s in the universities was enclave. Now, the enclave here in Uganda, by 1962 independence, was characterized by what they were calling the 3 C's and the 3 T's. The three C's were cotton, coffee, and copper. And the 3 T's were tobacco, tourism, and tea. These were the only money economy enterprises in Uganda that time. And they covered a very small portion of the population. I've been trying to get figures, but I think by 1969, only 4% of the population were in that small island of money economy. The rest were outside the money economy, in what they call non-monetary GDP, where they would be producing food for eating and self-sustenance. In our language here, we call it okora echida chonka, working only for the stomach, working only for eating. No money. But even as recently as 2013, in spite of our interventions, only 32% of the homesteads were in the money economy. 68% were still outside the money economy. So therefore, by 1965, the divergence of thinking among the intelligentsia, if you may call them that, were the 2 lines. One line was maintain the colonial logic of enclave economies. The other line was, which we came to join, was no. That's what Honorable Anita was talking about. Our point number 5 in our 10 points program, which was building an economy that was independent, integrated, and self-sustaining. And the arguments went on throughout the 60s. Then Idi Amin, in the case of Uganda, Idi Amin came in. When Idi Amin came in, he destroyed the small enclave economy, the one which was there. He destroyed it completely. Out of the 2 C's, of the 3 C's, only coffee survived. It kept limping on. The other 2 collapsed, copper and cotton. Out of the 3 T's, only tobacco kept limping on. The other 2 collapsed. So by the time we came in, we more or less no longer had even an enclave economy. we are to bring it back. Number one, that's what we are calling minimum economic recovery. Number two, we are to expand it. Number three, we had to diversify it. Number four, we had to tackle the big crisis in Africa of exporting unprocessed raw materials. This is the biggest theft that is going on now, all this time. Massive theft. And number five, so number four, adding value deliberately to the raw materials of Africa. And number five, introducing the knowledge economy based on knowledge. Now, people thought that this was just ideas, but ideas have consequences. When you see the crisis which is going on in Africa today, the problems in Guinea, Conakry, problems in Mali, problems in Burkina Faso, problems in Niger, problems in Gabon, problems in Central African Republic, Congo. These are directly the consequence of the mistakes by the neo-colonialists, those who follow the neo-colonial line. Because what has happened is that the economy is going to grow because much of the value is being stolen. If you take coffee, the global value of coffee in business is $460 billion. $460 billion. But all the coffee growing countries in the world share only $25 billion of the $460 billion. And Africa takes only $2.5 billion from the $460 billion. And that's the same story for iron ore, for copper, for what? So because of that, and the population growing, you get the crisis that you are seeing in many of the African countries. Many of the African countries cannot even be able to fund the army. They have no money. And what do they do? To bring UN. Imagine to bring UN to defend you. UN to defend me. As if I am an imbecile. How can I fail to defend myself and be defended by the UN? This is an insult. But that's Africa. Insecurity, what have you, because the states don't have the capacity or the value. You take the example of Niger, where there is a big crisis now. Apparently Niger has been exporting to France uranium. And the French clever people, they use the uranium to generate electricity for themselves from nuclear energy. How about your friends in Niger? No electricity. They are getting the little electricity from Nigeria, I hear. But you, wonderful Frenchman, a Christian, why would you take all this uranium from Niger and you don't even build for them one nuclear plant? One. What sort of people are you? We have uranium here, and some years ago, some clever man came. He was from Canada. Said, I want to take uranium. Take it where? Take it to Canada. Why? Well, we use it for some values. I said, I know, I'm not as ignorant as I look. I know you want my uranium for generating electricity and for agriculture. But I have had a rumor that there are human beings here in Uganda. So before you take it to make electricity for others, first make for me here. Then I can get you some extra for you to take, but not. So up to now, not a single kilogram of uranium has ever been taken from Uganda. Let it stay in the ground until you people wake up and you know how to use it for yourselves or for our grandchildren. Nobody can take Uganda's uranium when I'm here. No way. So this criminality, I was checking, there is some problem in Gabon. Gabon produces a lot of things, manganese, even petroleum. So I asked my people to check, do they have a refinery in Gabon? I don't know, they have not given me the answer yet. In many of the African countries, they don't have, which produce petroleum, they don't have petroleum refineries, no? Here we have some oil, which we found many years ago. They were dying to take it out quickly. I said, no. It has been in the ground for 2 million years. Let it stay until we get a good solution. I was very unpopular. But the Banyakure say, Kahende Kiteta Bongo. If you cast a buffalo, I wish you break your leg. The buffalo will not break its leg. So I said, no, oil will not go from here unless you build a refinery. And a refinery will be built. There have been maneuvers, but a refinery will be built and it will take the first call on the oil here. But I want to find out whether they have an oil refinery in Gabon. So therefore, when we came into the government, that was our line. Building an economy that is independent, integrated, and self-sustaining. Integrated means what you are now doing here. You have said now, somebody would be making transformers to support our electricity building effort. That's integration. And in the near future, you'll be using our copper, because the copper is there. In the past, it was not linked with the economy, because at that time they were purifying the copper to 94% purity, blister copper, and yet to link with the local industry, you need 99.9 purity, what they call cathode copper. Groups have been coming here, going. If you don't produce cathode copper, the copper will stay in the ground, go away. So therefore, when South Africa got freedom, I met Mzee Mandela. I said, now let's use South African, because South Africa had some capacity at that time of more investors, some capital, and I wanted to take advantage of them. And they also take advantage of me to build a strong economy for Africa. That's how I proposed to Mzee Mandela. We started a wide-body joint airline. Wide-body, big planes. It didn't continue, there was some problem, I don't remember what. I am the one who brought Eskom here. Say, okay, if they have an electricity company, let them come and participate here. I am the one who overruled Dr. Surma and allowed, what do you call Stambik? They call it Stambik now? To take over our commercial bank, our government commercial bank. I'm the one, I insisted, I said, no, let's I welcomed MTN and gave them a monopoly for, I think, 5 or 10 years. But I told them, the black man from Stambik, I remember him very well. Recently he came to see me, he was fatter now than the other time. The other time he was smaller. And I told him, I said, I'm giving you this government bank because I want to link the business potential of Uganda with the business potential of South Africa. Because we as Anita was saying, for us we think in Pan-Africanist ways. But things didn't move, I think people were busy. Until recently I complained to some people, I said no. Including my friend, the MTN man, when he came I told him, I said, you are a bad businessman, you don't know how to do business. Both the MTN man and even this one of the banks, you all don't know how to do business. Because the banks and the telephones are service industry, are service sectors. People use them to communicate, to bank money. But those people who are using your telephones, where are they getting income from? If they are not earning, where would they get money to use your phone more? How can you say you are a service company and you don't know where many of your customers are earning income from? So what I was telling them, I'm glad now I think you are beginning to work on it, because these economies here, like especially this one here, has got a lot of hydro capacity. You have heard that until recently, 68% of the people were outside the money economy. We are to bring in the army to distribute coffee seedlings for these people, villagers, to join the money economy by growing coffee. Now the figure has come down to the ones outside the money economy are now 39%. The one in the money economy are 61%. And we want everybody to join the money economy. If all these join the money economy, we need not benefit the telephone industry, the communication. Will they not ring more? If all these people join the money economy, will they not? Will we not have more money in the banks for the standing and the other one? And then value addition. If we add value, and the economy of Uganda grows, becomes much bigger, we get more money from coffee. Instead of getting $2.5 per kilo for coffee, because that's what happens now. We, the coffee growers, get $2.5 per kilo of good coffee. The one who roasts it outside gets $40. So the question is, who is aiding who? I've been asking that question. So Europe is aiding Africa. Really? I am aiding you. You are not Europeans. If the Europeans were here, I would tell them. I'm aiding you, Europe, by $37 in every kilogram of coffee. In every kilogram of coffee, I am helping the outsiders, Europeans, Chinese, whatever. I give them $37, I keep only $2 on every kilogram of coffee. Who is aiding who? So I'm very glad that now, in our small battle here, we are working together to solve this problem. Because when you say, I have seen all those items there, that will mean more families in Uganda who are outside the money economy will join the money economy, which is good for them, but also for MTN, for the banks. Then adding value and integration, linking the electricity industry with the local engineering capacity. So I want to thank His Excellency Ramaphosa. I heard our minister calling him Ramaphosa. I don't think that's the name. When I last checked, His Excellency was Ramaphosa. I want to thank him for remembering and sending you, and I want to thank the High Commissioners for being High Commissioners who are not asleep. Because many of the High Commissioners are asleep and they just drink champagne. Because the items you have captured here are good. The potential is very big. Countries like this one here have got everything. There's nothing that we don't have here in Uganda. Agriculture, minerals, forests, everything is here. And we are right on the equator. One part of Uganda is south of the equator, another part is north of the equator. Now, because of that, when it is a dry season in the south, it is raining in the north. So we have the big potential. So it's very good that we link up as Africa and work together. Now, I want to apologize to our entrepreneurs like Mama Bella, the one of Bella Wines. Our people have been okunegura nokumanya okunegura tokumanya rikiga okunegura baganda bakita kokonyo kibaita muganda kokonyo. When you give somebody something and then when he comes to take it, you take it away. My people have been kunegura that woman for a long time. And I must apologize on their behalf, but this time I will make sure that you get support. And I heard that Tugume and his group also, the support is not what. I know how to ring, I will ring you. And you will tell me the story. So with these few words, I'm now very happy, and I forgive MTN all the past sins. And I forgive Stambik all the past sins. The ABSA, who are the owners of ABSA? Are they Nigerians or what? But I'm glad you, the banks, you are waking up. You cannot go and get it. There was a story, a sad story. Sit down, thank you. There was a sad story. A woman fainted. A mother fainted. But she had a child. So when she was fainted and fell down, the child went on suckling the breast, thinking that the woman has no problem. So I don't want you, the MTN and the banks, to go on suckling a mother who has fainted. You need to put blood in this. You need to put blood in the woman, so that when you suckle, you have something to suckle. You cannot have underdevelopment services in an underdeveloped economy. You are just cheating yourself, because you would earn more if that economy was developed. And this is always my problem with all these so-called planners in Africa. On the side of the government people, you need to take advantage of the private sector, because the private sector can do things more easily at their own cost. But you need to facilitate them and guide them. In spite of my quarrels with MTN, you hear that when they came here first time, the telephone lines in Uganda were only 28,000. 28,000 telephone lines. Now the telephone lines in Uganda are more than 30 million, I think. And that one has been solved by the private sector at their own cost. But what we need is to guide the private sector, to tell them, maybe they don't know it very well, that in order to do even better business, help us. Don't use your own money. You bring us other contacts, because this was my issue with them. Bring me other investors. For you are in telephones. Bring me investors in value addition. Investors in mining. Like now, we have designed and we are making our own electric vehicles, electric cars, which we call Chira, the knife. That's the name of the knife. Electric vehicles, electric buses, minibuses, and so on. And we are struggling to make lithium batteries here, because we have the lithium. and our lithium will not be exported. We shall make the batteries here. So, if you get me investors, I have some, I don't know, but if you can get more, then we would export, we would use the lithium batteries in our own vehicles and export others to other people. So that's another area where you can help me to get some investors. So please, then the Ugandans on your side, don't delay these people, because business people don't have time to waste. For you are eating government money. Whether you work or you don't work, you get salaries. But private sector, when they don't work efficiently, they go bankrupt. So that's why they are more disciplined than the government people. So please always make sure they move fast. So I'm very glad with my brother, His Excellency Ramaphosa, and I welcome the ANC people. I normally see them. The beautiful lady, the Minister of Agriculture, I normally see her, and I thank everybody. Now, what do they call God in Amazulu? What do they call God?
Your Excellency, good afternoon once again. In Zulu, God is called Ungulunkulu.
Ungulunkulu.
Yeah.
Kungurukuru. That's a description. The head of the heaven. Because in our dialects here, heaven is Iguru. Iguru is heaven. Kulu is senior or older or so Iguru Kulu. So Iguru Kulu has now done work now. Thank you very much. What do I do with the conference? I close it or what? What do I do with it? I declare it. You are declared closed now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency will request that you permit us have the ceremony of signing of the MOUs. Like I said before, we shall have the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Uganda Industrial Research Institute and the company which is going to manufacture.
Just hold on, let me do something. I don't want to miss anything.
Okay.
Just 1 minute.
Okay. Just take your seats. Take your seats. Understanding under signature is that between Uganda Industrial Research Institute and Hexagon Electrical Limited, which is going to manufacture electricity transformers here in Uganda. Hold on. Thank you very much, URI and Hexagon Electrical. The next MOU for signature, Your Excellency, is between Uganda Investment Authority and Invest South Africa.
Thank you very much, Invest South Africa and Uganda Investment Authority. Your Excellency, we now have one last ceremony, which is handing over investment companies from South Africa by MTN, like you directed, to Uganda. But before I do that, Your Excellency, in the delegation of our South African brothers and sisters, we have the first son from the Republic of South Africa, Andile Ramaphosa, and Bridget, his wife, who are here. I would request you to kindly step forward and wave to His Excellency here. Andile and your wife, please come forward here and wave to His Excellency the President. Thank you. May I now invite MTN to come and present companies from South Africa who are coming to invest in Uganda. Your Excellency, with your permission. Thank you very much, the Honorable John Mulimba. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give the Honorable John Mulimba a round of applause for guiding us through today's program. Your Excellency, we just have one ask. After the anthems, Your Excellency, you will have 2 photos. And my humble prayer to the categories of people that will have photos is that the very first photo, Your Excellency, will be with the Honorable Ministers, the 2 delegations from South Africa and Uganda. And the second photo, Your Excellency, will be with the heads of the private sector companies that sponsored this summit. And you know yourselves, MTN, ABSA, Sanlam, Stanbic, DFCU, Nile Breweries, MultiChoice, and PSFU, the Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Please note, those will be the only 2 photos that the President will have after this on the dais where we are taking the photos from. So may we now be upstanding for the anthems, please.
Sigelera sounds the call to come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We remain standing as His Excellency the President makes his way for the photos. I'll ask the protocol teams to lead our ministers, the honorable ministers, and our sponsors. Please make your way to the photo area. You will have just the two photos, the honorable ministers with His Excellency the President, and of course the sponsors. Your Excellency, we want to thank you. Can we give His Excellency another round of applause for joining us? The rest of us, please take your seats. Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Do take your seats. Please do take your seats, ladies and gentlemen.
bakanyanya nyangira kushemera murane njina y'umwana nyangira kushemera inode banojema winji nyangira kushemera rahanga kandi taranga nyangira kushemera tikapuzi nyauchenizire nyangira kushemera mutima kwingalelo maruti kushemera yashibira nyangira kushemera yashibira dirkamara nyangira kushemera kurunarara barunji kurunarara kokashenyereza abandi n'inzira kurunarara kokashenyereza abandi n'inzira barunji n'abanyizire kurara kurunarara kokashenyereza abandi n'inzira kurunarara kokashenyereza abandi n'inzira abagurusi bazabitebe abakikuru bacu migusho wishorari 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 webundi kanchumbura yewe webundi kanchumbura yewe abandi nyenga ishorari ngomesuje